What's going on, everybody? It's time for class. Let's get started. All you subscribers know what it's all about. If you're new, subscribe and you'll find out. Let's get right into it. Today, I am going to attack and address a video that I've been getting a lot of requests for. Phrasing. That's right. Phrasing. I've got enough videos out there that if you're watching them, you're gaining skills, you're ready for phrasing. Let's learn how to put a phrase together. Let's learn to put a thought together, some sort of lick, anything that makes sense. Let's find out how to do that. By the end of this video, you'll be running strong. So let's get right into it, because I'm excited to show you. Let's get going. Phrasing is the ability to put together a thought, a musical thought, that makes sense. Not anything, something that makes musical sense. So how does it make musical sense? Now, before I get into this, let me say this is a guitar lesson. I suggest watching all the way through to get all the information. Don't be cutting up to the middle and then asking me questions. Watch the whole video. You probably won't have any questions, but if you do, then ask them and I'll answer them. Now that I've explained all that, let's get right into phrasing. I'm going to use the most popular key, E minor. By now, you should know what key that is, so I'm not going to duplicate any of the repeated information that's already here. We're getting right into this for you guys. So for all of you who have paid attention to the other videos, I'm not going to waste your time repeating things. If you've never seen it, you got some homework to do. Go back and watch some videos. Let's get right into it, guys. We're going to use the key of E minor. So we're going to be starting with that key. I'm going to begin showing the phrasing methods with the pentatonic scales and the various boxes that are played within that scale. So the first thing we want to understand about how to put a phrase together is you need to know what your root note is. You need to know what that root note is because it's very important. Why is it very important? I'm going to tell you why. Because that's going to be your resolution note. That's going to be the note that finalizes your phrase. It's going to finish your thought. It's going to finish your sentence. It's going to finish your idea. It's going to finish your phrase. You need that root note. Without that root note, you have no phrase. You have nothing. You have junk. You have garbage. And you have something nobody wants to hear because it's like an unfinished sentence. If you just ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble, we roll our eyes and walk away. Same thing when we hear the music. If you don't have it put together properly, we roll our eyes and we walk away. So phrasing needs to know, and when you're phrasing, you need to know where you're going to resolve. So that means you need to know what key you're in, and not necessarily the root note of the key. For this video, yes, the root note of the key is what we're going to be focusing on because this is a series in phrasing that's going to take place over time. And we're going to start with the simplest versions first. So that along the way, you're saying, man, this is easy. This guy just makes it so easy. I can follow this because this is not the only video to phrasing. We can't sum up phrasing in a few minutes. So we're going to break it down to videos that you can handle and clumps that you can accept and handle working with. And then I'll dump some more on you later on in another video. Let's start with the basics of phrasing. First, we need the root note. So let me just say this. When we're in pentatonic land, the only root note is the root note of that minor key. There is no other note that will work if you're in that minor key. So if we're playing in the key of E minor, there is no other root note that is acceptable except the E. And if you don't know why, go back and watch my minor pentatonic videos on the building pentatonic scales and you'll understand all what I'm saying. I can't repeat things. We don't got time. This video is for those who've already put in the time and want to learn a phrase. So if you don't know it, go back and watch. Come back and catch up here later. Everything I do here is revolved around the E. So whatever I do is starting with E. It really doesn't matter what I do. I don't even have to be in the key. I could just... and it'll work. Anything I do with a rhythm that ends on E will work. It doesn't have to be in the key, though. Again. As long as I come to E, the riff will make some sort of sense. Now, when we're phrasing, there are two different ways to phrase. The first thing we're going to talk about is phrasing without a rhythm behind us. That's what we're going to do today. No rhythm behind us, folks, because that's the basics of phrasing. So we're going to be in the key of E minor. We're going to be using the E minor pentatonic scale. We're going to be resolving to E. So the first thing you need to know about phrasing is, if you're playing in this key of E minor, which is the most popular key by far, hands down, that's a fact. Because if you just check how many songs are in the key of E minor or the other key it's in, G major, I already said it. I wasn't going to say it, but I said it. I had to. If it's in one of those keys, you're in the most popular key possible. There are more songs written in this key of G major, E minor than any other key on planet Earth. So we're going to use it. Now, obviously, the first thing, if you haven't figured it out yet, is you're going to need to know where the E's are on your guitar. Because if you don't know where there's an E, you can't end your phrase. Then there's no phrasing. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to memorize your E notes. How do you do that? Well, if you haven't watched my very first video on how to memorize the fretboard in minutes, well, then you are shortchanging yourself big time. Big time. Because if you don't know the fretboard up and down, then there's no way you can reach your personal best. It's not possible, and it will never happen. You must know this board up and down, memorized to a millisecond. You must know everything on it with your eyes closed. And if you can't do that, well, I'm sorry, you got work to do. I mean, you still get to be an accomplished player, of course, but you won't reach your best, the very best. You won't get 100 on that test. Hey, a 96 or 98 or 99 is great, but 99 is not 100 and is not the best you could do. A 99 leaves room to be desired and leaves room for growth. So if you want to be the best you can absolutely be, the best you could possibly be and know better, you must know this board by heart. And I have a video that's in 5 minutes, shows you how to memorize the board in minutes. And I can't tell you how many responses via email I have gotten from guys that say, wow, this is unbelievable information. Where was this when I was starting out? So even if you've been playing a long time, if you can't tell me what's on this board, if I ask you in a second, you don't know a note here in 1 second, you don't know the board. So how could you possibly run around and effortlessly get to your root notes if you don't know where they are? Some of you got some homework to do. And for those of you who've already done the work or have learned it from my video, I'm saying to you, congratulations. I'm proud of you. You've done the work, and now this video is for you. You're ready to handle phrasing like a professional. Learn it well right here. Subscribe to this video channel if you haven't already, because I pump videos out all the time. And if you want to see them, subscribe. At least leave me a comment to let me know you're watching the thing. Anyway, let's get right to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find out where there are a few E notes. In case you don't already know, I'm going to give you some of the answers. There's E notes here on low E. You got one on high E. And you got all the octaves in between. We got an E on the D string, 2nd fret. Right? I got an E at the 2nd string, 5th fret. I got an E at the 12. I got one at 12. I got one at 14 on D. By the way, if this note is on the 2nd fret of the D string, E, 12 frets up, is the same exact letter because there's only 12 notes in music. So on the 2nd fret of D, I go right to 14. It's the same letter. From this E, I can find the octave. 17 on B, which is only 5 up, which is 12 frets up from the 5th fret on B. So there's E's all over the place. Use your octave methods. Count up the strings. Go every 12 frets to find the next one. There's E's all over the place. Now, once you know where some of these are, you need 1 or 2 to get started. If you use the same one, within 10 minutes, you might get bored. But if you're going to phrase for a little while in practice, you'd probably want to know where there's at least 2 E notes. I've already showed you where 6 or 7 of them are, so no excuses, folks. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing to phrase, if you're a beginner, you're trying to use your techniques, combining them to make the tapestry of art that you've created, resolving on the root. That is phrasing, using your techniques and resolving to the root note. The root note makes the phrase sound completed and finished, just like punctuation on a sentence. No punctuation, you can't speak well and people look at you like you're crazy. Same thing with the guitar. You run around playing notes all day long and you never have anywhere to rest. People are going to wonder what you're doing and when you're stopping, and they have no idea how to follow what you're doing because you're not leading them around. You're just running rampant. We don't run rampant, folks. We have a system to what we do, just like any language has a system to it, has punctuation in there. You need to learn to punctuate your music. So that means resolving to the correct note. So a simple phrase might just be something that a few letters, few notes played that ends on the E. There's a basic phrase. It doesn't have to start on the E, folks, but it needs to end on the E. It can start on the E, but doesn't have to. This lick I did was just a simple pentatonic pull-off lick. Oh, there's a little pull-off, G to E. D back to E, I bend, and on the E. When I end on the E, the riff is finished and completed, and people know it's done because I stopped and I rested there. Let's start another one. As basic as that is a phrase. Anything that ends on that E in the key of E minor would be a phrase. It doesn't have to be in the key, I guess, by law, but it certainly helps to be in the key because it makes more musical sense, which means more people are going to like what you're doing, you're going to like what you're doing, and it's just going to sound better overall, okay? It's just like saying put the right nut into the right bolt and it fits the smoothest. You can force something else in there, but it won't probably work twice. Just like this. If you just jam around and do whatever, it'll work once, but it probably won't work twice. Now, phrasing, folks. Let's get a little more involved. What you're trying to do is add, for the very beginners, you're adding a note or two to the end of each phrase to make this phrase longer like a chain. So now I take this little phrase and I just keep adding to it. If you want to add 1 or 2 notes at a time, that's fine. There's a very short phrase. Phrases are typically longer, but you're working to build the phrase because that's why you're here, to learn. So you start slowly. You just start with simple passages that end on the root. Something like that, you're probably not going to be able to recreate in one box. So in this case, to get that sliding vibrato, you would have to walk down a string. So again, knowing your notes in your boxes, knowing your pentatonic scales. This is E, G, A, and a B. I'm on the B string. So if you don't know where E, G, A, and B are on your B string, once again, you've got homework to do. Go back and watch. Now, I can come anywhere on a guitar and phrase any way I want. Doesn't matter as long as there's an E. Here is just a case of G and A, C and D, resolving to E. Simple phrase on E. Now your phrase is going to start with bends. They're going to start with any technique you want. There's my E again. There it is. Check it out. Where is that, folks? 14th fret of D. Again, 12 frets up from the 2nd fret of D. By the way, what pentatonic scale boxes are basic. So if you just practice repeated licks, you can start throwing these repeated moves all over your phrases. So I would suggest having a bunch of repeated moves that you know that you do well. Something like, or, so you work on this move. Maybe you leave that first finger down. You just, I personally like to pick it up and then put it back down. But any repeated little thing you're working on can be put into your phrase. If you're on a song piece, you can throw that into your phrase. It really doesn't matter what you do. If you make a mistake, who cares? You're at your house. You're not on stage. There's a phrase. I threw some notes into that riff. Makes it a phrase. Phrase. Here's a phrase. E. Practice your pedal tones. And on E, there's a phrase. We're going to get into diatonic phrasing at another video, but this is the beginning of phrasing, folks. You're just going to work on resolving to the root note, staying in the scale that you're playing, using as much technique as possible. If you like what you're getting, then you've done your job. If you don't like it, keep working till you get something you like. If you have questions or comments, leave them below. I will help you the best I can. This is the beginning of phrasing, folks. Stay tuned for more videos.